Hey everybody, I'm Ashleigh Banfield and this is Drop Dead Serious. Today's episode is all about some pictures. So if you're listening on the podcast, I recommend you go to YouTube and take a look at the pictures because some photos of Bryan Kohberger as a teenager have surfaced on Reddit. And I have spoken with sources who went to school with him who say that's him, that's it, they're legit. What a difference a decade and a half can make. He is literally double the person that he is now back in high school, meaning he's probably lost half of his weight and become that much thinner that you wouldn't recognize him. And with all that weight loss, something else must have happened because the personality that you're about to hear from one of his schoolmates from back in the day and the description that she gives of who he was back then compared to what we know of him now is night and day. It is not the same person. Something happened either with his heroin use, something happened with his weight loss, something happened, as he processed his life from high school and through college. But he is definitely a transformed, different person altogether than who he was and what his high school mates remember him as and knew him as back then. So it's kind of crazy. I do this other show called On Patrol Live. I fill in for Dan Abrams, and one of the staff members on the show, as I was filling in last weekend, came up to me and said, "It's good to see you again." Her name's Mandy. And she said, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I went to school with Bryan Kohberger. To which I caught my breath, brought my jaw back up off the floor and said, "Mandy, you need to talk to me on Drop Dead Serious." And she agreed. And on the day that we are talking, these photos have surfaced. So it's sort of great kismet that we can talk about these photos, what she remembers of this kid, because they are definitely the kid she went to school with, and all of the things since. What it was like to hear this news, to hear that name, to know that you're connected. Your school is connected. Your town is connected. Your friends are connected. And then to sort of think back to the guy she knew compared to the guy she's learning about now, this horrific serial killing monster, spree killing, however you want to refer to him, and processing all of that. And it's sort of a fascinating road that we haven't explored a lot. Because look, I'm going to say right now, all of the sympathies go to the families of the 4 kids who were lost, right? The Mogans, the Gonzalveses, the Kernodals, and the Chapins. They are suffering the worst in all of this. There are the surviving roommates. They are suffering. Their families are suffering. And there are the Kohbergers. Like, everybody wants to vilify them, but you've got to remember who they are in all of this. They didn't do this. They're not the killer. This guy did it on his own. He was a grown-ass adult, 30 years old now, 28 when the killings happened. And yet, there is this association that for some reason the internet wants to give the Kohbergers like they're somehow complicit. They are not. And so it is interesting to plumb the reactions, the ripple effects, the effects on this family. And by extension, the old friends, the high school friends, even the kids who just knew of him, the school itself, the town. Anyway, that's where I'm going with this episode today in talking with Mandy about who he was back then and how she's processing all of this with her friends. I want to be totally honest with you. This is a moving day for me, so I wasn't planning on doing a podcast. But when these photos emerged, I thought about my conversation with Mandy, and I thought this is the day that we need to have this conversation and do this podcast and talk about all the things, all the feels, everything that she and her community went through, knowing the guy back then versus the guy now. And so I'm doing this podcast today, but I also just want to tell you it's important for me to connect with you in our true crime community in as timely a fashion as possible. I could have done it next week, sure, but these photos are out now. And so it's important to me to connect with you guys when things are happening. And I'm really appreciative of you. I have said it a million times, like a broken record. I can't do this without you, with the viewers and the listeners. And so when I say thank you, I mean it. And I also can't do this without my sponsors. They make all of these things happen. And so one of my sponsors is Honey Love. And I have to be honest with you, it is a total game changer. Yeah, I'm wearing a droopy shirt right now, but I really rely on shapewear. I work on TV, and shapewear has really helped me as I, do all my on-camera stuff. And I just connected with Honey Love, started wearing their stuff, and it's fantastic. I started with something called the crossover bra. It's wireless, but somehow it's still supportive, like a hug that kind of knows what it's doing. And so I wear it under these shirts. I wear it under my dresses. I wear it under anything, everything, even to bed. It's that comfortable. And the shapewear is great as well. It really moves with you. It doesn't roll up, because I know a lot of the other stuff has rolled up and left weird lines. This doesn't leave the weird lines. And there's also a bathroom opening. So yes, thank you. I do want to say this. Treat yourself to the most advanced bras and shapewear on the market, and I have 20% off for you. All you need to do is go to honeylove.com/Banfield. Honeylove.com/Banfield. You can use our exclusive link, get the 20% off, and find your perfect fit there. And after you make your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about Honey Love. So please let them know that it was the Drop Dead Serious podcast. It really helps support the show. Tell them we sent you there, and experience the new standard in bras and shapewear with Honey Love. That's honeylove.com/Banfield. Now, back to the episode. Mandy, this is so weird because we're work colleagues. You and I see each other a couple times a year, and you shocked me the other day when you said, I went to school with him. What? So I couldn't wait to talk to you on this podcast. And we have a really great community in the Drop Dead Serious podcast world. And I know that they'd want to hear all of your thoughts about knowing one of the most frightening serial killers, well, I guess you could call him a spree killer, but of all time, what it was like to find out about this, what your thoughts were, what your friends' thoughts were, how you guys all reconnected over this. Not only that, but comparing the person that you've been hearing about now with the person that you knew, back in high school. So let's just start with the pictures themselves and go over these pictures and what they kind of invoke for you. Because I think this is kind of the first time that you're really seeing them, like all within the last couple of minutes. So let's pop the first picture up in the series of shots. Does this invoke anything? I mean, when I looked at this, it gave me the chills because I only know the Kohberger of recent, and I can't get over those eyes. But what does this photo speak to you?
That one kind of seems like he's sad.
Is that the person you knew? Did you ever get the feeling in high school that that quiet kid was a sad kid?
It was always, again, he was younger than me. So it was more so I spent more time with his sister. And he was always just so quiet. We never got the sense that there was something wrong. Sometimes when things like this happen and people come out and they say, oh, he was quiet, but yeah, that kind of makes sense because he did this, this, and this. We didn't have that. Like we grew up in a community where everybody knew everybody. And when this came out, it was very shocking to a lot of us. It was very like, wait, what? It wasn't that kind of makes sense for us.
Did you immediately, upon hearing the name Bryan Kohberger is the one arrested for the horrendous quadruple murder in Idaho, everybody in Idaho in the community there was saying, who? He's not connected to us. Did you suddenly call old friends or old connections from high school and just sort of connect with them to say, what the actual F?
Yes, we did. There were some friends that I reached out to immediately and said, oh my God, did you hear what happened? Did you reach out to so-and-so? What happened? And yes, the group change started immediately because, again, we do come from such a small town. So everybody who knows everybody, it's a small town where everybody shares the same last name. I shouldn't say that. Hold on. Let me not say
But close enough, right? No, that's okay. That's okay.
But yes, we do come from such a small town where everybody knows everybody. So it was very shocking when we did hear Kohberger. It was instantly, I said, oh my God, I went to high school with the Kohbergers. Amanda was in my graduating class, so it was very, very shocking to all of us. Yes, for sure.
What did everyone say? Like, what was the basics of the conversations that you suddenly were all having? And this was like December 30th.
Everybody was shocked. There was no inkling of, yeah, like I said, there was no, that makes
There's no
sense.
there was no thought that, well, we all knew he was going to be in
Right.
the news in some way.
Right. There was no thought that any of us would have ever imagined that something like this would have went down. No.
Did you try to reach out to Amanda, his sister? Did you try to reach out to the family members that you went to school with?
I have not. No. I have personal friends who are personal friends with the families. And that's
They
all.
must have gone through the most unimaginable hell. I mean, they're sort of the forgotten victims in all of this, the Kohberger family. They did not do this. They did nothing. They were not complicit in this. This is Bryan Kohberger's doing. This is his monstrous mind at work. This was his monstrous hands at work. This was not his two sisters. This was not his parents. And they really suffered.
They did, and my heart goes out to Amanda and his family, and it's very, very hard. It's the Kohlbergers are left with the aftermath of what he did. Like, his poor family now has to deal with everything that he did.
What
Um,
are they like, the Kohbergers?
Amanda was a sweet, sweet girl growing up. She was wonderful. She has a great personality. She's wonderful. So it's a shame that she's being drugged through the mud the way that she is. She does not deserve it at all.
She
Um,
lost her job, right? She and her sister both were fired so
from what I
quickly.
from what I understand, and it's very unfortunate. She does not deserve what's happening to her and her sister, and I wish them nothing but the best. I hope that they can move past what's happening to them. It's very unfortunate.
I want to go back to some of these pictures from high school. I had seen a couple pictures before, so I knew he was heavier, and looks like he's a lot heavier. He looks like he's half the size that he used to be. But this is the guy you went to school with. Like, this is the image. This is the person you
Yeah.
remember. Yeah. Does it invoke any kind of memory, or does it just sort of leave you flat?
It just sort of leaves me flat, to be honest, because again, there was never any, he never had anything towards women or anything towards anybody. He was just very to himself. He was very quiet. So,
That that's what fascinates me, because the person that we are getting to know, as opposed to the person here, from 15 or so years ago, is skinny, angry, rude, misogynistic, and is belligerent, like wants to be out front in class, wants to lecture everybody. Certainly not a quiet guy. So, what do you make of that?
I really don't know. I really don't know. It's again, it was shocking. It was shocking to all of us. It's shocking now. It's
Makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. It
So
really
in high school, you never got an inkling that he wouldn't look at girls or didn't like girls or used to talk amongst a group of kids that, they were like, well, for lack of a better term, we now call them incels, but might have been the group of incels. It wasn't like that.
no.
It feels like, from your description of him, he just was that guy that faded into the woodwork.
Yeah. And he I know I just keep saying it, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record. He really was just the quiet kid who just, when he graduated high school, he became the excuse me, when he graduated high school, he became the security guard at the high school for a little bit there. And he stayed in the town, and that's what a lot of people do in that town is they graduate high school and they stay there. And we just thought he was just gonna
Just
be
kind of
a
a
town.
non-memorable, homogenous kind of nondescript fella.
Yeah.
So, thinking about who we've come to know, this this personality that's just so off-putting, right? We've heard that he would skip or be late to female professors' classes, but not male professors. He would dress down female students. He would cause many of them to cry. And he caused professors to meet about him, to say he's going to be a danger if we give him a PhD. It just sounds like it's 100% transformation from the kid you went to school with.
It is. That's why it's so shocking to all of us who come from this small town that
He ended up that way.
where did this come from? Where did this come from? And I know that it's so cliche to say, things like this don't happen in these small towns, but it really took us all by storm. The people that I talked to, the circle that I'm in, we were all very, very shocked.
Did you start thinking about it? When you heard all these details, because clearly you're pretty connected to the story, so you followed the headlines, maybe more than most, right? Mm-hmm. But did you start thinking back, what did I miss? Were there red flags? Did you go over your whole map of your mind from high school thinking, where might this have all had its genesis? What was your thought process?
I think at first I remember going through and seeing where he was in high school. Saying, because I remember, again, because we all grew up it was such a small town, and he was younger than me, so he was more closer to my sister's age, but Amanda was in my class. It was just so crazy. It really was. Because it was just so crazy. It was just, I know I just keep repeating myself because it really was just so crazy to see such a big headline and then to see your high school on CNN, because that's really what happened. It was breaking news, and my high school picture, a picture of my high school popped up on CNN, and I was like, what is going on? So it's just.
Did you search your mind constantly? What did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss back then?
I think we all did. I think we all at one point said, what could we have all not seen? But none of us missed anything. Obviously, we all missed something. But
none of you, even in all your chat sessions and your communications after his arrest, you couldn't come up with anything that made sense.
No. We can't. It's so bizarre. Because again, he was quiet and he was nice. His sister was great. His sister is great. She's, it's bizarre. It's very bizarre.
Mandy, knowing what we know now about Bryan Kohberger, there's some thought that he may have been bullied in school. Does that make sense? Just knowing your high school culture, that he might have been, relentlessly bullied. Maybe that triggered him.
Bullying at my high school, unfortunately, was a problem. I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't. Bullying is a problem in today's culture and was back then. So I wouldn't put it past that could have been a problem for him.
Did you ever hear of anything that related to him? Groups that didn't like him?
Specifically, no. But again, like I keep saying, he was very, very quiet. But that could have attributed to him being very quiet, that he was bullied.
And it wouldn't surprise you, knowing the culture of your high school back then and the classes back then, that could have been happening to him?
It would not surprise me, no.
Yeah. And I don't give a pass to anybody, trust me, on I was bullied, therefore I murdered 4 innocent kids in their bed. Bullshit. But
no, absolutely
we're
not.
just all grabbing at any sip of a straw that we can to figure out what turns someone from the quiet kid, a little overweight with his backpack and his satin shorts, into one of the most infamous American killers of all time.
Yeah. Bullying was a problem for sure in my high school.
But who knows if it affected him
that much it's hard to say.
What did you think when you saw Amanda and her mom in court behind Bryan Kohberger for his sentencing?
I think I think it took a lot of strength for the two of them to do what they did. I think, what do you do in that situation? To be completely honest, I think about so many things. If they probably were there to not only support their own family member who they are now losing. People do forget that even though he committed these heinous, horrible crimes, they are still losing a family member. So they are there for their family member, but they're also there for the victims. I believe that they were there to support the victims as well. So I think it took tremendous courage for the two of them to be there, and I think that they they should be commended for being there. I think that the pushback that they got for being there was very, very harsh.
Nobody's ever walked in
Um,
those shoes, and then they feel like they're experts and they can be trolls online. You cannot
yeah,
imagine what it's like to hear news
no.
that just came out of nowhere. Oh, by the way, you're never going to have this one back for Christmas. You're never going to. It's not just that it would be easier if he was dead.
Sometimes that's the easier route. Like, that they're never coming. Like, it's
And the
I
stigma and the
I
horror that he's there, and the probably the guilt that his parents and his sisters will go through. Like, do I have to get on a plane for 6 hours to go have a horrible visit behind glass, once every how often? Don't know, with my brother, my son, my child. Like, just imagine the pressure on them and the guilt that they'll go through as well. Um,
Yeah, nobody
It's hard
wins.
having these
Nobody
conversations, by
wins.
the way, because all of my conversations have been about the victims and the family members, because the trauma they're going through is like nothing that anyone will go through. It's just,
Of
it's
course.
just, this is yet another piece that very few people talk about.
Yeah, nobody understands, because of course the victims' traumas are what the victims go through, and the victims' families, we will never comprehend, we will never understand. Absolutely not. But I think it's worth noting that the that Bryan Kohberger's family also lost a son, also lost a brother, also lost somebody. Like Amanda and her mother will never, like, they did lose somebody. I'm not saying that they're suffering in the same way by any means
No, I
necessary,
understand what
but
you're saying.
they're
I think they also, yes, they've lost that guy. Of course, they can visit him in a prison, but they've got the added horror and humiliation of being associated, like how people feel they're somehow complicit or they're somehow a part of this awfulness, like this, like you went to school with the
right.
guy, big, no one's ever going to associate you with his horrible actions, but they do
Right.
associate his family.
Right. Now for the rest of their lives, they're associated with that. This poor girl lost her job. Like, come
And
on.
has that name.
It's
She's got that
Yeah.
name.
So I think he and looks just like him. Like, spitting image. I mean,
Hard.
it's got to be very, very hard. I mean, I commend her for handling it with such grace, for for handling it as well as she is, and for not letting the internet consume her the way I would let it consume me, if we're being completely honest. Um,
I
but
don't know how
it's
I'd
got to be.
there's no blueprint, right? There's no
No,
blueprint.
there is no
There's
blueprint.
no blueprint for the Gonzalez family, for the Chapin family, for the Mogan family, for the Kernodle family. There's no blueprint for them to process this bizarre thing that landed like an atom bomb in their life and their world and their love. There's no blueprint for it. And there's less of a blueprint for the other side of it because there's less attention given to
Right.
people like the Kohbergers. And then there are the trolls. It's new. It's a new layer in the last decade that's really, evolved sadly. That there's a troll environment that will attack families of the victims, believe it or not, families of the four kids, and family members of Bryan Kohberger.
Yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible.
You're such a sweetheart for talking to me, and I look forward to seeing you again at the office.
I
But
look forward to
um,
seeing you, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate your insight. I think we don't usually hear enough from people who, again, have these residual connections to massive, massive stories and crimes, and it's a lot for people like you to process as well. And there's so much going on with the victims' family members, and of course, Kohberger's family members that we kind of forget that you're out here too.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.